I'm Russ Reinsch, and me and my wife Carmen live here in Shickley. I guess all my kids, 2 stepkids, 3 kids, all graduated from Shickley High School. Growing up in the community, I live 10 miles from town, so I really didn't grow up in the community. I come to town for baseball, basketball, football games, so I really wasn't in town a lot. And if my friends had something going on, a birthday party, I was, let's go to town, but it was just Mayberry RFD, is what it was, not, what you think it would be living in a small town, friendly people wave, honk at you, if you honk in the big city, you're probably in trouble, so. I just want to say school, meeting people, I can talk to anybody, people person, just getting to meet people, growing up like that far away and not being in town much, I didn't know probably, maybe 20 of us that started school together. I probably knew maybe 7 or 8, having good times and playing sports with them. Imagine that, me bringing up sports. When I was growing up, my dad, being the youngest of 6, we went to a ton of games. I've actually had people tell me they wish they had a dime for every game that Elmer went to because they'd be a millionaire, which would be pretty close to the truth, I think. So that's where I developed my love of sports. Like I said, was the main reason we come to town a lot of the times was to go to a game. So that's where I developed, because I was always at softball, baseball, basketball, football games, or track meet. Doing the game, announcing the football games at BDS, I actually went to college with a degree in broadcasting, and that's as far as it got me. So I did minor in journalism. I want to say Gene Dollinger did it up until, I think, Ted's senior year. I think Ted graduated in '87. So I've been doing it since 1987. I think I missed 1 game in all that time. I'm gonna start clear out on 74. There was no barn. Both sides of the spur were open. When you got to the football field, there were actually no trees on the north side. Myself, Marty Kennel, and Herb Johnson were the senior class VOAG, and under Mr. Straight, we planted most of those trees there. So that's my part of my giving to the community, I guess you could say. And then as you move south, where the parking lot is at now for the school, used to be just a great big ditch full of really big tall trees. And you get to what Alf's uses storage now. That was Kenny and Verge's feed store. Later, Dan and Luann Bond took it over. And if you want to go a little bit east, the Methodist Church was their very big church. And that's where we parked in high school. We parked all the way around and down that street. Get past Kenny and Verge's and the service station, gas station. Oh, Kenny and Verge's did also have gas. They also sold gas, so we had 2 gas stations in town at the time. And then where the bank is at, when I was growing up, I want to say the bank went there in early 70s, but there was a grocery store. That was actually Bussy's first grocery store, and they had a fire. And they moved over here to where they're at now, and the bank was built, and there's 3 little buildings that look to me like the Old West. One of them was a shoe repair store. Dick Morgan owned that. And then Schaefer Plumbing had a storage, used one of the buildings for storage, and I'm not sure about the third one. And then you got to the public restrooms, post office, and then right across the street here, can't recall anything ever being in the north half, but in the south half was the laundromat. And then basically where we're sitting right now was a playground. And you had the railroad, lumberyard, and that's it. So now we go back out on the west side, across the street from the school, where the greenhouse is. There was a house there, torn down. And where the fire hall was at, I can't remember for sure. Somebody surely knows. I was thinking there was something they used to fill the fire trucks with, the fire tanker truck with, to put out fires. And then there was an old jail back behind maybe a 16 by 16 building that was pretty much rotten and ready to be torn down at that point. Got the old fire station, and Carlson's was an open lot, and Alf's actually parked their pickups and service trucks there. And then Lichty's, then you got to the bar, which is now Weekend Warriors. And beside that, before Weekend Warriors put up their new shed, it was an open lot, but I can remember an old building being there. Library was there. And then you got to the grocery store. It was Don's IGA when I was growing up, and then Clint and Marilyn Schweitzer bought it, and became Clint's IGA. And then Longhorn Cafe. And I'm going to take a peek out the window here. What is Wilson Accounting was, I think there was a barber shop on the north side and a beauty shop on the south side. And when I was little, Jim Weinrich ran the barber shop, and then the beauty salon was, I want to say, Diane Deep, Peg Kennel, Peg Ward now. Got my first perm there. I looked really good. A lot of people called me Ronald McDonald, by the way. And where Home Place is, that was just vacant, just junk store. And then beside that was the bank before they moved over to their new location. And then when I was younger, what's the grocery store now? There was Merriman's, and they had like lawnmowers, rototillers, kind of fix-it shop like that. Then on the corner here was Tim's Electronics, sold CB radios, car stereos, stuff like that. And across the street where the memorial sits, there was like a railroad office of some sort, Legion, and that's pretty much it, And of course, Biggert's, there was always a lot of truck traffic. I remember that because Biggert's had trucks going in and out all day for their feed service. I don't know, I actually did live in Littleton, Colorado for about 6 months. And I had an opportunity to move back. I worked for Walters at the time farming, went out there, didn't like what I was doing out there. Walters needed somebody, so I come back. Small town, I couldn't live in the city. I don't mind going to the city for a day or two. Really just small town living is, I can go out in my yard and whatever, and I can drive 5 miles, I'm out in the country. In the city, you might drive 20 minutes and not leave. The businesses, anytime there's a fundraiser, they get hit up first. People are reaching, hey, would you donate cups, money, napkins, whatever, and very supportive, and you see the thank you afterwards, and it lists all the businesses in town. And I'd say, very, very supportive of local events and what's going on, and looking at the memorial across the street, that was not cheap, and a lot of people, supported that. So, and clean. Very, very, very few rundown properties in town now, which is nice. You pull into town and people see that and think, well, that's nice. People respect their town here. This is a story I like to tell. When I owned the bar, I had a gentleman come in and complain about the kids leaving cans or bottles on Main Street. And I told him, I said, that's not a bad thing. You've got kids roaming around town, which means there's activity. And I said, that's also law enforcement. If somebody comes into town and they're going to rob the grocery store or try and rob something, they see kids on Main Street at 1 a.m, guess what? They're thinking, we can't do that. There's a small window that you've got to get in and out of town now if you want to do something like that. So when I hear tires squeal at 1 or 2 a.m, I think, there's security's up and doing their job. So. Probably through ag, just through work, you deal with everybody. You need parts, or got to sell grain, or buy seed, or groceries, or get your hair cut, go to the bank, mail a letter. There's businesses all here. It's just, we're all kind of in it together. We've all got to help support each other and hope that it works. But because we got to all support each other. I don't want to say how simple you have it, or they have it. Now you've got information in the palm of your hand. You push a button, something happens. Years ago, you'd load a planter, 12-row planter that held 36 bags of seed. You handled all 36 bags. Now you pull your seed tender up and start a motor or something, and run your seed. Just things are so much easier. If you had a breakdown, had to call somebody, you didn't call from the field. If you didn't have a vehicle in the field, you might have to walk a couple miles home to make a phone call or drive to town or something and get that done. But how simple and easy things are. Stay positive. Life isn't going to be easy. There's going to be roadblocks, there's going to be detours, there's going to be things that you're going to have bad days. Just stay positive and it'll be fine. You're going to worry about small things that a week later you're going to say, why was I worried about that? Stay the course and hope everything will turn out okay, because 99% of the time it will.